What's up, you guys? My name is Hutch. I make videos, put them on the internet, and about a month and a half ago, Batman v Superman came out. That movie is not a 28% on Rotten Tomatoes kind of movie. I started thinking more and more about that movie and its predecessor, Man of Steel, and I thought of a video idea for what I'm doing right now, which is 10 things I like about Zack Snyder's DCEU. Now, these are not things that I love about Zack Snyder's DCEU, and these things don't necessarily make Man of Steel and Batman v Superman good films, but they are things that I like about his universe, and I want you to tell me in the comments if you agree with me. The first thing I like about Zack Snyder's DCEU is that these are versions of these characters that you've never seen before. So if nothing else, even if he falls short of a perfect film, if nothing else, these movies are, you have not seen this kind of a Batman before in film. You have not seen this kind of Superman. You've definitely not seen this kind of Lex. And I like the fact that he didn't just keep revisiting the same fucking stories with these characters, because then I feel like you have a situation like what happened with Amazing Spider-Man 2 and Amazing Spider-Man 1, where it was retelling this origin story that we had seen like countless times in the last decade. Well, specifically 3 times, but we had already seen that origin story, and enough was enough. So I mean, like, his storytelling isn't great, but at the very least you haven't seen it before, and I like that. I think that takes courage, especially when you're trying to make a movie that's going to please Superman and Batman fans. That's got to be real polarizing. There has to be a lot of pressure to put yourself through, and I think, all things considered, I think I applaud his decision to try something new. The second thing I like about Zack Snyder's films in this universe is that it's casted incredibly well. Like, even though I think Superman is a little dry in these films, I would probably say that has more to do with the direction than anything else. So even though I'm praising Zack Snyder, I'm also kind of putting him down a little bit for giving Henry Cavill like not the greatest direction when it comes to that character. But as far as looking like the part and when he's in the suit, I think Henry Cavill is wonderfully cast in that film, and Ben Affleck, I think, is just born to play Batman. All the supporting characters, I think, are totally fine. I think Amy Adams is fine as Lois Lane. I think Lawrence Fishburne is fine as the editor, and yeah, I mean, I have no complaints about the casting in this film. I think they did a top-notch job with it. Jeremy Irons, another one, is Alfred. I could go on and on. I think the movies have really good casts. So number 3 is Batfleck. Even though I just mentioned Ben Affleck a moment ago, I think, I just want to reiterate that, give him his own category in this list. I think he was born to play Batman / Bruce Wayne, and I think he did a fucking terrific job. I cannot wait to see where he takes it with his solo film, and I'm looking forward to Justice League. If for nothing else, just to see Ben Affleck wear the cowl again. Number 4 is Hans Zimmer's score. The music in both of these films is fantastic. It is like grand and orchestral, and it makes you feel all kinds of feelings. And like, I treat Man of Steel and Batman v Superman in some ways in a similar way that I treated Mad Max, which is that I kind of view that film as like a cinematic opera, like where the music plays just as big a role in getting your the audience's emotions stirred as the actors do. And I think that Hans Zimmer is just, I was really sad to hear that he's not doing superhero scores anymore, because he's just so fucking good at it. I love the music in both of these films. Number 5 is costume design. I think that that Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, all look terrific, better than they've ever looked. I think that, if like specifically, I think Henry Cavill's Superman suit was off the hook. I remember seeing the first images of that pop up online, and I just lost my shit because I thought he looked terrific. All the Kryptonian stuff, like at the beginning of Man of Steel 2, I loved Russell Crowe's outfit and Zod, and like I think that part, I think they did a really good job. Number 6, I wrote that the sad moments are just as beautiful as the action set pieces. Like, I'm thinking of the scene in the first movie where Superman watches his dad. Even though the scene doesn't make much sense, like, do you really have to let your dad die in a tornado? But the scene where he loses his dad, and the scene where he kills Zod at the end of Man of Steel, and full spoiler alert, if you haven't seen Batman v Superman, then just pause and just don't watch this video. Why are you watching this video if you haven't seen the movie? But and then the last scene I'm thinking of is Superman's death at the end of Batman v Superman. Like, the way that it was shot, mixed with Hans Zimmer's score, like, made those scenes, like, they left an impression on me. I like movies that are, you know, up and down. I like movies that are dark and lighthearted at the same time. And even though these movies lack a lot of the lightheartedness, they do nail the heavy stuff, like, really well. Zack Snyder, you can never take away what he brings to the table as far as presentation goes in his movies. Number 7, I said that it explores the potential consequences of Superman. And I mean this in, like, a realistic, grounded in reality sense, as much as you can be grounded in reality in a movie like Superman, featuring a character like Superman. I think that one of Zack Snyder's primary goals making this movie, or making these movies, was to explore this idea of, like, how would we all act if someone like Superman showed up tomorrow? Like, what kind of consequences would that have for governments, for nations, for citizens, just for everything? Like, the ripple effect of the consequences that would come if someone like Superman found our planet and then made it his home. I thought it was a really interesting idea to explore. It's not necessarily, it's like kind of a no-brainer, but I liked the way that he went about doing it. It wasn't just about some supervillain that's coming to destroy us all and Superman's got to save the world. It was like, well, how does someone like Superman make people feel? Like, certainly some people would be afraid of him, and I like that Snyder focused on that. I thought that was an interesting way to go. Number 8, the presentation of Krypton, its destruction, and its technology was what I wrote for that one. I loved the opening of Man of Steel, and I don't think that too many people can take that away from Man of Steel, even though that movie is almost as controversial as Batman v Superman. Even though that movie is controversial, I think a lot of people agree that what they did with Krypton and how they presented it was really top notch. Got me super stoked for the rest of the movie, and I loved the technology. I loved the it's like using metal, like some kind of like pliable metal to make shapes, and like everything about that whole situation had me kind of like having a nerdgasm. Like I love sci-fi, and I thought that they got the Krypton part down really well. Number 9, I said the possibilities present now and right after Man of Steel, with all their newness, are really, really fun to speculate on. In that sense, the hype alone makes these movies so much fun for me. Yeah, so I think what I meant when I said that was just the idea of where the series can go. So, if you've seen Batman v Superman, then you know that Superman dies, and he's probably coming back. But this idea that Superman could come back as a bad guy, if you look at Batman's sequence with the Flash, where he comes and warns him about how he was right about him all along, and then you have that nightmare sequence in the desert where he basically punches a hole through fucking Batman's chest. So this idea that Superman could come back as bad, like, that's just one of many possibilities that could come in the future. And right when this movie was announced, Batman v Superman, I mean, I got just so immediately hyped with the combination of Snyder, Ben Affleck, and in a Superman universe bringing Batman to the field was that alone. I mean, I've never been that hyped for a movie. I'm not going to say that it was the biggest letdown of my life. I will tell you that I was like slightly let down by Batman v Superman, but that movie was so much fun to speculate on, and I think that, you know, I'm less excited about Justice League as a result of how much Batman v Superman fell short in some areas, but I'm still hyped for it, and I like, you know, I like being reminded that I'm a movie fan, and movies like that, you know, they really get me going. The last thing that I wanted to say about Zack Snyder is that, you know, this is not the MCU. You're not guaranteed laughs and lightheartedness, and I like that. Even in Nolan's films, like, they were pretty dark, they were pretty gritty, but they had, you know, I feel like they had like a fair amount of humor involved. Like, even Alfred's character alone was basically the comic relief that made sure that you were gonna laugh at least a few times throughout the film. But I like that this is not the MCU, and I like that this is not Nolan's Batman or Superman. I like that this is something completely on its own, and I think that because you already have the MCU doing something that's lighthearted, more kid-friendly, I think there's totally a market for a universe like Snyder's universe. And I think that, you know, it's not a bad thing to go to a movie that's dark in tone. That doesn't mean, like, it's not a director's obligation to make you feel optimistic by the end of the film. And I don't think that even that's necessarily the case for superhero films, as much as we want them to be. So I don't mind that his movies are dark and sort of like brooding and in some ways depressing. Like, I don't mind that at all. And I think that, you know, once again, I want to go back to one of the first points that I made, which was that he could have done that. Like, Snyder could have, and the execs, they all could have sat down, they all could have had a conversation about what's going to make them the most amount of money, and they could have gone the way of the MCU, but they didn't. They decided to turn this into a much darker affair. And even if you disagree on the execution of the film, I think that the ambition of it, or the what it wanted to be, was good, was theoretically sound, and I'm glad that they went in that direction, because I don't want a lighthearted Batman. I want Ben Affleck as Batman, like in a super dark role, in a super violent, gritty role. I like that. And I don't think they should stop with that at all. That's my list for 10 things I like about Zack Snyder's DCEU. If you guys have anything you would add to that list, speak up in the comments and let me know. Or if you think my list was totally full of shit, then I imagine you'll just let me know anyways. So, that's going to end my video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Click like if you liked it, and I will talk to you very... Bye!